All right. Hello. Welcome in. This is episode 10, and it's on Lightning, transactions, fast, cheap Bitcoin for everyday use. Bitcoin has a reputation problem when it comes to everyday use, and that's why I wanted to include this in the series. Ask anyone why they don't use Bitcoin to buy coffee or pay a friend or send money home. And they'll tell you it's too slow, too expensive, but great for holding, not great for using. And they're not wrong. For on chain transactions, things can get slow. And depending on the parameters you set for sending it, it can be a little more pricey than what's believed. Sending Bitcoin directly on chain can take anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour, depending, like I said, on what parameters you set and how many confirmations you want. And it also depends on network congestion at the time. That doesn't work for everyday transactions like a coffee. It doesn't work for splitting a bill. It doesn't work when you just sending $50, small amounts. But here's what most people don't know. And I think a lot of the people who don't understand that there's another layer that you can use for purchases like that. And a lot of people around the world use that as well. There are two layers on how Bitcoin can move and does move. The base layer, which is the on-chain layer. It's the blockchain itself. Every transaction gets recorded permanently on the blockchain, the open ledger, verified by thousands of computers simultaneously, which are the nodes, and settled with absolute finality, which is what we love, which is what we want for sound money. It's the most secure, most permanent way to move Bitcoin for large amounts, but it's also slow and it costs more because you're using the full weight of the entire network every single time. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. Then there's the Lightning Network. And I have to say, I've been digging a little deeper, and the things they're doing are truly awesome. The Lightning Network is a second layer that's built on top of Bitcoin, and understanding how it works changes a lot of things. And I'm hoping I can break it down. I have a little metaphor. Hopefully it lands. Here's how it works. When you have two people that want to transact via the Lightning Network, they open what's called a payment channel. To do this, they both fund a special Bitcoin wallet on the main blockchain. This is the only on-chain transaction that's required to get started. Think of it as two people putting money into a joint account they both have a key to. This is not your Bitcoin cold wallet. This is just another wallet on the layer that's built on top of the base layer. Once that channel is open, they can send payments back and forth instantly as many times as they want without ever touching the main blockchain. Each payment just updates a shared balance sheet between them. 100 transactions, 1,000 transactions, none of it hits the blockchain. It's all happening off-chain in real time. So when they're done sending money back and forth, whatever services, transactioning, all that good stuff, it doesn't matter if it's days, years, months, they close the channel between them. The final balance gets broadcast to the blockchain, the Bitcoin blockchain, on a single on-chain transaction. The blockchain records only the end result, not every payment in between. So instead of thousands of transactions clogging up the blockchain, which makes it slower, like I mentioned before, causing congestion, you get two, one to open it and one to close it. That's the scaling breakthrough that I think a lot of people miss. Now, when I was looking this up, I was like, okay, so does everybody need to open a channel every time they want to do something? And it doesn't go like that. This is the part that kind of struck me. Routing. You don't need to open a direct channel with every single person you want to pay. The Lightning Network routes payments through interconnected channels automatically. And here's a way to think of it. Say you want to pay for coffee, but you don't have a direct channel with them, but you have a channel with your friend, and your friend has a channel with the coffee shop. Lightning finds the path automatically and routes your payment through your friend's channel in under a second without your friend even needing to do anything, which I thought was super cool. It's a really kind of circular economy going on there. This works across multiple hops. The network is consistently searching for the best path between sender and receiver, and this is why it costs so little to send them. Similar to how data finds its way across the internet. You don't think about the routing when you load a web page. You don't need to think about it when you send a Lightning payment either. The payment either arrives in full or fails completely, and it returns to you. There's no partial payments, no stuck funds in the middle. A standard on-chain Bitcoin transaction costs anywhere from $1 to $20 in fees, and it takes 10 to 60 minutes, like we we're saying, depending on network congestion and the parameters that you set. Lightning transaction costs on average less than 1 cent. Less than 1 cent. And settles in under a second. This is amazing. By late 2025, the Lightning Network has handled over $500 million in daily payments. And that number is kind of staggering. That isn't an experimental technology anymore. That's a functioning payment rail. And I think why a lot of people in the West don't think it works is because they don't use it as compared to people all over the world that do use it and find it very helpful. And speaking of that, we're going to talk about how it's used all over the world. Remittances, this is the biggest one, I think. Over 800 million people in the world depend on money sent to family from around the world when they're working abroad. The average fee to send money home, and we've covered this on other videos, is anywhere from 5 to 9%. And most of Africa has to pay 9%. And on a $300 transfer, it's almost $27. It's almost $30 gone before the family even sees a cent. And in a lot of those countries, $30 is a lot of money. And apps like Pouch PH for the Philippines, this is specific to the Philippines, and this is really awesome. It receives the Lightning payments and it converts it directly into the Philippine pesos. The family doesn't even need to understand Bitcoin. They just receive the money, which I think is really awesome. In El Salvador, citizens are using the Lightning to pay for food, gas, and everyday services. Street vendors and shops accept Bitcoin through Lightning powered wallets. This is a real world day to day commerce happening right now. And there's a few more uses here that I'm going to cover that I don't think a lot of people know about. Content and micropayment. Lightning enables something that was never possible before. Paying a tiny amount for individual pieces of content, a fraction of a cent per article read, a few sats per minute of video streamed, creators getting paid directly by the audience with no platform taking a 30% cut. There's also business payments, settling payments and invoices internationally, vendors getting paid instantly across borders, freelancers receiving payments from clients anywhere in the world, all without a bank. And that's the part about it I like. No bank needed. Without a wire transfer, without needing 3 to 5 business days to wait. Just, yeah, me and banks don't have a good history. Now, there are limitations. Like, don't get me wrong, this is still very early. They're doing a lot of amazing things, but there are limitations. Lightning wallets are hot wallets. They're connected to the internet, which makes them convenient, but also they carry more risk than cold storage. Lightning is for your everyday spending, not your savings, which should be in your cold storage. Think of it like Lightning is the cash in your pocket versus cold storage, which is your safe at home. Routing can occasionally fail for very large payments. Individual channels have capacity limits, so routing a significant amount through the network doesn't always work perfectly. Lightning works best for smaller everyday payments. And channels, this one I knew might have a bit of limitations on. Opening and closing channels involves on-chain transactions, which have fees. For most users using a beginner-friendly wallet, this happens in the background automatically, but it's worth knowing because it is there. The technology, like I said, is still maturing. Functional, yet it is growing fast, but not fully seamless for every user in every situation. I think that's where a lot of scrutiny comes from. So, how do you start? I think Muun Wallet is a really good it's free, beginner friendly, handles both on-chain and Lightning automatically. Download it from the official app. Please make sure if you're going to test it out, make sure it's coming from the official app. Set it up, back up your recovery. Wallet of Satoshi is even simpler. It's pure Lightning focus. Good for just getting a feel of how it works. Say you're traveling somewhere and you want to test out how Bitcoin works. Say you go to El Salvador, see what they're doing over there. It's a great time to test it out. Once you have a wallet, send yourself a small Lightning payment, $5, $10. Feel how fast it is and see how cheap it is. That experience moving money across the world under a second for fractions of a cent, I think is something that a lot of people need to experience. It's kind of like when you first see your cold storage transaction land, it kind of changes something in you. And I think this will start to do that for a lot of people as it starts to grow. Lightning is what makes Bitcoin's original promise real. The original promise is peer to peer. You open a channel with somebody and you transact with them as many times as you want, instantly and for fractions of a cent. And I think that's very important. Yes, cold storage is for long term holding, for inheritance planning, for storing your wealth, transporting it through time and space, and setting up your family for success. But I also think, in my opinion, that Bitcoin should be used and transacted with on the daily basis, and that's why Lightning is so important. Satoshi described Bitcoin as a peer-to-peer electronic cash in the first white paper. It's in the first line of the white paper. On-chain transactions at scale can't deliver that everyday payment system that Lightning can. Available to anyone on Earth with a phone and an internet connection, no bank account, no intermediary, which is the best part, no permission, which is even better. That's why everyday Bitcoin is important. Just transact with it. It's not something that you should just only hold. This is my personal opinion. Something you should be using because I think Bitcoin can fill many different roles for many different people. It's not only a store of value or a medium of exchange or a hedge against inflation. I think it should be used as all of those and more. Because if you're exchanging your time and energy for money and then putting it into Bitcoin, use it, save it, do whatever you want with it because you traded your one and only very scarce, very limited resources, which is your time for money that they print. So when you go ahead and you put it into Bitcoin, feel like you should be able to choose freely what you do with it. Just my personal opinion. And as always, if you're going to buy Bitcoin, make sure you send it to cold storage and also make sure you use it. Peace out.